and they feel comfortable, and hours can pass by with them scrolling. And so when you have these laws and restrictions, do you not think that they will restrict this kind of freedom? And Dr. Ahmed, you mentioned the marketing aspect. I apologize, there is no sound. Thank you. Thank you, Chair Dr. Fahd, and we would like to thank the researchers who presented various aspects of legislations and regulations related to social media platforms. I believe that all presentations touched upon the heart of the context in which we live. I'd like to ask a question. And we lost the sound again, I'm sorry. So the question was from a media professor from Al Julfa University, Algeria. Thank you, doctor. Go ahead, please. Peace and God's mercy and blessings be upon you. Thank you for these valuable presentations, which were quite beneficial. My comment is building upon the recommendations stated by Dr. Bilal. How do you see the future of digital freedom of expression in GCC countries in light of the growing security challenges between retaining the authority and the protection of the community? And here we need to highlight the protection of communities, since Arab communities have become more accepting of change with social media, and also the approach of some countries rejecting the international social media, such as Russia and China. They do not accept or approve of these international platforms. So let's ask the question, why are these countries against using these social media platforms, the prevalent social media platforms? And as Arabs, why don't we have Arab social media platforms where we can express ourselves without someone exploiting our data and exploiting that to erase our norms and traditions and heritage? Thank you. Last question. Thank you to all the presenters. These were valuable presentations. My question is to build on the question asked by my colleague related to regulation. Dr. Ahmed started with the question to regulate or to not regulate. This is the million-dollar question, as they say, because who is regulating and how? If it's up to the governments, then there's always apprehension of this turning into from regulation into restriction of freedoms, freedom of expression, and also silencing voices if there's any opposition or critique. So it's not only regulation, but rather restriction. So who does the regulation? Could there be higher or supreme bodies agreed upon by academics, legal experts, educational experts to have a commission, a non-governmental commission that might assume the responsibility of regulation? This question is in the United States, the EU, and not only in our Arab world. What is the best format for that? Thank you. The gentleman here, last question. First, I would like to thank the panelists for their valuable presentations. My question is related to the reality in which we live, because social media is now reality, as Cohen says in his book, The Digital Human, because a person who is born in a digital ecosystem saturated with digital trade, marketing, and so on and so forth. So is there readiness? And we're talking about Arab countries here when it comes to the technological infrastructure, readiness to monitor cyber crimes and also phishing or misleading marketing and so on and so forth. So my question is for Dr. Bilal on the differentiation between the freedom of opinion and freedom of expression. Freedom of expression might be populist, might be related to philanthropy, and it could also be related to security, stability, attacking the security and stability of the state. Last question. I note that there is discussion about the problematic of restriction, and we're not talking about the risk of anarchy made or manufactured by the social media. If we look at the risk of anarchy, it is goes far beyond hedging that we are doing. So yes, there are countries that have had hedging policies, but I don't know how effective that is. Thank you very much for all the questions, and thank you for your graciousness and for letting me speak about my recommendations. All the questions were focused more or less on the same point. I'll start with the most difficult recommendation, which will answer your questions, because we cannot in 10 minutes resolve the issue of freedom of expression, be it in the Arab world or in the universe at large. So I'll start with an idea by a French philosopher Foucault, who talks about the shaping of people's awareness and subjugating them to criteria. And this is really difficult. Foucault was inspired to have this idea from an English architectural structure called Penipicton, and it is a tower, a surveillance tower in the middle of a prison, and it misleads the inmates into thinking that they are under continuous surveillance. They don't know when the guard is there or not. So they domesticate themselves or monitor themselves as outlaws. So if we apply the same architectural structure to digital freedom of expression, or regular freedom of expression, actually, freedom of expression in general, then we might reach an idea where we have self-monitoring, self-surveillance with the principles of citizenship, values, Of course, this is utopian or ideal. But if countries use laws and regulations rather than restrictions and raise the awareness of people so that all citizens are responsible and they make sure that they take accountability for what they say, and also with the principles of democracy, we often hear that too much democracy kills democracy. This is an idea that has been in discussion recently. So we are at a point where the regulation of this democracy is different from being open to all ideas and absolute liberalism. And so let me, if I may, answer with some recommendations. The most difficult thing about restriction is using loose terms in laws, such as the general order, the public order. For example, this action attacks general or public order, but order is different from a place to another, from a time to another. We need to have controls of these laws, and I'm a lawmaker rather more than anything else, actually. So when the regulator and the lawmaker uses controlled terminology, it would be litigation and law-friendly terminology. And since you asked about GCC, we need to unify our regulatory efforts, especially when it comes to cybercrime, because countries need to standardize the crimes, cyber crimes they are facing. For example, if you are in a country and you move to a 10-meter away countries, you tweet against that state. So you need to standardize the laws regulating these issues and having an accord, an international accord, why not, to regulate these freedoms and rights, electronic freedoms and rights, specifically with certain proposals, and having an Arab platform that doesn't practice surveillance but to have cooperation. Thank you. Thank you very much for your valuable remarks, which will contribute to the development of the final version of the paper. I will mention some points related to your remarks. First, Dr. Fahd, about the differences. I didn't get the chance to elaborate on the differences, but they are explained in the paper. As for the maturity of regulation in some countries have more maturity. Some countries have regulations on data collection regulations and maintaining privacy and confidentiality. Some countries don't. Some countries invoke some old, outdated laws and project their articles on social media. So there are differences in all 6 cases that we looked into, and this is all explained in detail in our paper. As for raising the awareness and the community role, I agree with you completely on this part, but my question here is, what about minors or children? There is a research published about this on how to regulate the cyberspace to protect children. Children are among the most groups to use social media. They can be easily manipulated, especially people who game. Of course, it's hard for us to understand that, but for younger generations, this is quite common. The Australian example is good. Yes, I agree. There are countries that are following that lead in the future when it comes to children, because they are the most vulnerable group, and the level of awareness in children is not sufficient to understand these risks. And yes, it can reach digital addiction. I'm not a psychologist, but there are studies about this, and they compared between the children's addiction to these digital platforms and real addiction. And Dr. Sahar, who does the regulation here, the answers in the literature of regulations, there are 3 approaches. First, either the government can do that with the caveats that we've mentioned before. Of course, they are not the most qualified party to conduct this kind of regulation. The other approach is self-regulation, to be regulated by the industry itself. And here there is a huge element of public interest. We cannot leave that to the industry to regulate itself, because this might be at the expense of the end users. The approach I prefer is co-regulation. So the government would place or draft the guidelines, blueprints, and then there would be participation by the community to drafting the standards and surveillance or controls of this institution. Thank you. On behalf of everyone, we would like to thank the panelists. There is a suggestion by Dr. Haider to cancel the break and start right away because we are late.